All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for our session 2 of our UKG Workforce TeleStaff webinar series. Our topic today is navigating scheduling for special deployments. And we only have 30 minutes, so let's get started. Going over the agenda, we'll have a quick introduction and meet the team, everybody that will be leading us through this presentation today. We'll get into special deployment instances and quickly move into the scheduling of those special deployments. And at the very end, we will have our live Q&A. So please submit your questions throughout. We will be getting to them at the very end, and don't worry if by chance we do run out of time. We will send you the answers via email. All right. And a little bit about JK Seva. We're a team of talented and passionate professionals driven to transform business processes across healthcare, public sector, hospitality, and gaming. And we focus on software solutions to meet your organization's HR, payroll, finance, supply chain management, and workforce management needs. For more information, please visit our website at jkseva.com. My name is Emily. I'm the relationship manager here at JK Seva. Bill, he's our president here at JK Seva. He's been working in ERP and workforce management for over 20 years, and he'll be leading us through this presentation today. And Tara, she served in financial and analytical roles for local governments in Washington State for the last 19 years, and she served as Vancouver Fire Department's operation for the last 8. Tara has implemented major TeleStaff upgrades, including brand new system rules, and she's also operationalized the City of Vancouver ambulance services, and she's implemented multiple software systems at the Vancouver Fire Department. And Tim, he has 15 years of payroll and scheduling experience with TeleStaff, and he is a retired lieutenant in the police force with the City of Madison, Wisconsin. He's earned his TeleStaff expertise with implementations for both fire and police agencies. And without further ado, I'm going to pass this on over to Bill. Bill, take it away.
Thanks so much, Emily. So those of you familiar with UKG Workforce TeleStaff, great. Some of you aren't. So I just wanted to make sure. Can I have maybe a raise of hands on who might be familiar and who's not, or put it in there in the if you don't have a hand raising capability, you can put in the question thing if you have some good experience, or maybe the years of experience that you have with Workforce TeleStaff. Can you put that in there for us? Okay, yeah. So it looks like we have some experienced people on here, and sometimes we get people that are looking at Workforce TeleStaff. So we're going to do a little bit of an overview, but for the sake of time, we're not going to do a huge one. So basically, Workforce TeleStaff is a reliable scheduling software for public safety. It also can be used in public utilities and some manufacturing and that kind of thing. But here's a brief overview of what Workforce TeleStaff has to offer. Basically, it offers fairer and more accurate personnel scheduling, and it also gives you some automated tools of Workforce TeleStaff. You can basically rebuild schedules and rosters. And there's a lot more to that, but also, as I was mentioning, as far as automatic rules-based assignments of overtime as well. So you can have overtime positions that are automatically assigned based on rules you could figure and so forth. But it also offers integrated communication. Scheduling and communication functionality is really integrated right in with Workforce TeleStaff. So it eliminates the manual calls and expedites your scheduling process. And then it offers not the last thing, but it offers better emergency response via phone, text, email, and internet for deployment and scheduling. So it optimizes scheduling, communication, and deployment of your public safety personnel. Like I said, most of you probably knew that, but that's for the people that are just not have not really had a lot of exposure to it. So today we're going to talk about special deployments. Okay, so in order to get a better understanding of what we're talking about, we're going to define it here. And what we're talking about with navigating scheduling for special deployments, the definition is known or planned events that can be pre-scheduled or deployed upon demand. So that's what we're talking about when we're doing that. So the benefits of scheduling special deployments are fourfold that we're going to talk about. Okay, well, the first benefit is that it provides a great audit trail. Workforce TeleStaff is designed to have a detailed audit trail. Hey, Tim, I know you've set up special deployments. Can you tell us a little bit more about the audit trails? Tim Paragoy is from Wisconsin Police. He has some good things. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Or sometimes known as special event staffing, can be deployed to sell staff personnel outside their normal schedule, such as sporting events, seasonal events, city work, private work, training events, meetings, festivals, parades, and much more. TeleStaff will need to have a really good audit trail so that you know who deployed it. Not only would you be able to determine who set up the deployment, but oftentimes these events are complicated and competitive in nature, such as off-duty overtime. The audit trail will be able to defend a possible grievance. The audit trail will also assist in sequencing of events such as date and time.
Thank you, Tim. So that, yeah, that's important to have that audit trail with that. So that makes sense to me. I think that's very, very important. So when it comes to Workforce TeleStaff, there's some great canned reports that are really helpful to determine staffing, right? Staffing implications, and I think you had told me before, it also even quite possibly payroll implications. So can you also, Tim, tell us a little bit more about some use cases and a little bit more detailed reporting capabilities there?
Yes, it depends on how you set it up in the original layout, but let's give an example of, let's say that you have a concert coming to your city. Not only are you going to want to schedule that concert with a staffing scheduling, but you're also going to possibly want to report that to managers and to possibly charge the vendor. And remember, TeleStaff is a scheduling software, but it also is integrated with most payroll systems. So if you have that concert, you can easily, whatever you put in, you can pull out a format that you are going to lay out with your best practices and procedures that you could set up with your consultant when you're organizing the initial structure for the TeleStaff procedures. Which
is, okay, thank you. Yeah, that detailed reporting is very, very helpful. So the another benefit is automation, and I think we covered that pretty well in our session 1. So if you want to know it in detail, but of our, in our webinar series, but it is such a key benefit for scheduling special deployments. Can you elaborate a little bit more here, just quickly on the automation benefit as well?
Yeah, as mentioned earlier, these events are competitive in nature sometimes. Sometimes it's monetary incentives, such as overtime, and other times it's negative, such as forced work days. Either way, the automation process can be applied using your rules that you've already created in your organizational structure, or you can create different rules and different lists. That way, when you make your deployment, you can create the deployment using that particular list, and it could be automatically sent out, even called, and sometimes these events are such short notice that some departments and some organizations are in desperate need, so they will even have it where an officer or a employee can self-select. In other words, as soon as they put in it for it, they get it, and there is no delay, and it's automatically on the schedule.
That's perfect. What, the last one we're going to talk about here is the deployment flexibility, right? And so can you can you kind of explain this benefit a little bit more for us?
Was that for me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, I believe it is.
Well, yeah, the flexibility in deployment, and when you become familiar with TeleStaff, you're going to have extra units and backup units that you're going to deploy somewhat on a routine basis. The flexibility that TeleStaff has is that you can deploy it as set up in your organizational structure or on the fly based on a unique event situation that may occur without too much notice. So, in nature.
Perfect. So as we talked about the benefits of navigating the special deployments, scheduling for special deployments, we kind of want to shift and we're going to go to talk about two different ways of scheduling. And we understanding that we want to talk about the two ways that we are put here are permanent positions, and then we call ad hoc, which I think many of you are familiar with ad hoc. You probably do that a lot. But the first one we want to talk about is permanent positions. And Tara, can you give us some insight on permanent positions?
Absolutely. So there's two types of permanent positions. This example is for something that's consistent. You can build out positions in your organizational structure and group them by common event types. For example, if you know you're going to routinely be providing service at a high school football game, you can build out an organizational structure to deploy a certain number of positions for that. Another example would be internal training. You can build out a training structure and deploy individual positions easily from the roster once those are built in. The other example is for specific unit deployment. For example, in the fire department, we have a fire boat. It does not run enough call volume to warrant having it staffed 24/7. So what we do is we cross-staff that unit with an engine. So, but on busier days, like the 4th of July, we can easily deploy that boat as a separate unit independent of the engine that is currently cross-staffed with.
Can you move on, Emily? Yeah, that's the cross-staffing thing there. And then the example is the fireboat and the EMS, water rigs, those kinds of things. So that is cross-staffing is a big deal, isn't it, Tara? That is a big benefit. I'm sorry, a big way of scheduling that happens quite often.
It does, and it allows for a lot of flexibility if you build that out.
Which, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, thanks for that. So the other way of scheduling that we're going to talk about here is the ad hoc. And hey, Tim, can you come back in and kind of share a little bit more on the ad hoc way of scheduling?
Sure. Ad hoc, well, it's actually known also as user-defined. Remember that special deployment, by its very title, is an event or an activity that does not get staffed routinely. If the event was routine, it would be built into the organizational structure to be filled daily for assignments and for vacancies. Then there are events like Sarah mentioned that are somewhat routine, like backup units and extra units, some of which follow the same rules and procedures as permanent positions. However, some, if not most, events are not anticipated. Think of dignitary protection or protest. How about a crisis in the city? These will need a large number of personnel to come into work with very little advance notice. Most events, however, are very small in nature, such as off-duty employment or private work. These vary in size, date, and time, and the amount of personnel that are needed. Even the nomenclature changes quite a bit. When using user-defined in deployment, you can change the name and the hours along with the staffing with a couple of clicks. Let's look at an example of moving a house. And yes, I'm not talking about physically moving the house, but a company contacts the training unit or the traffic unit and says, hey, we'll be moving a house from point A to point B. And we all know that if you've been behind a house that's being moved, it moves at a very slow pace. And that means that there's going to be intersections that need to be blocked off. So the company reaches out, you need to determine that you need 1 supervisor and 3 officers needed to accomplish this task. You simply click on, add 1 supervisor, 3 officers, and the hours, and you click. Now remember, that house moving detail is not a common event, so there's not going to be a position in the organization that you can pull, so you're going to need to have something that you can do on the fly. You can deploy the event and name them and provide the quantities of that personnel can sign up for the event and get exact instructions on what to do once they arrive at work.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. What about kind of the, can you give us kind of more of an example or a way what it looks like, how it looks and works within?
Yes.
Oh, here it is. Can you explain this a little bit?
Yeah, when you deploy an event, you can have it set up so it's going to show up on the person's dashboard, and a dashboard is what they initially see when they log into the system. And it will be, as you can see under that featured vacancy in that slide, there was set up this, it's in a fake one that is called Bike Patrol. And if you look at the Bike Patrol, it says Bike Patrol for parades. And if you wanted to put another note under there, like no squads authorized, you could put that as well. And it also will show up on the roster, and it will show up as a vacancy flag. If they click on it, it will give all the details, and it will only show up on officers that are, or employees that are qualified for that position that you've deployed. And there's another example of the Bike Patrol for parade. And if you can see under there, it says report to Sergeant Smith with 555-5555, no squads authorized. So they have the exact instructions of what they're signing up for.
Which is perfect. And that can be automated as well, which is kind of a nice thing. You can do a process flow automation through that basically. So that's kind of a nice, quick kind of thing there. Well, that's, appreciate that, that understanding, Tim. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, when you say automation, and the automation process as far as the nomenclature and the quantity, that's the benefit of the ad hoc or the self-generated one, is that it's not automated as far as the quantity, but once that quantity is predefined by that really quick couple clicks, in the background is where you can have it automated so that when the personnel does sign up, the selection process will be easy and sometimes automatic, where that no one has to do anything except wait to see how many people sign up and who gets it.
Yeah, that in itself is a huge benefit of that for using Workforce TeleStaff. So thank you for that, Tim, and thank you, Tara. In reality, we hope that you guys understand this a little bit more. We can see that there are many benefits and ways in using Workforce TeleStaff especially. And as you can see here, if you don't recall anything else, the key to navigating scheduling for special deployments is that when you use UKG's Workforce TeleStaff, it helps in making you better prepared and properly prepared for your personnel scheduling, and you can see how you can do some great reporting as well as automation. So what we want to do now is move into the Q&A, but before we do that, there's 2 different ways you can do this. You can tackle this yourself, which is kind of one of those DIYs, or you can let us help. If you need some help, we can help on the advisory needs, maybe planning, or even putting some of these things in place for you. But help get you properly prepared and set up in a way that is good for your system there. So, but before I begin, before we get into the Q&A, if you have a question that maybe you put in that didn't get answered, or you still have one, maybe you still like to ask, you can always email us at contact@jksava.com, and then in the subject just put session 2. And if you'd like to get a demo or need some additional help setting up workforce TeleStaff or optimizing, or want more reports, there's a lot of things we get a lot of those requests. There's a lot more reports as well. You can also ask us there too. You can reach out to a sales team at jksava.com. Going on into the Q&A session here, I do want to remind you that we do an exit survey that will be coming out. We want to make sure you do that because we want to get better at what we do and see if this is helpful and what pieces of this is helpful. So if we can't get to all these questions, we'll go ahead and send the answers out that we're doing. So we have a list of questions. Emily, can you see the questions, or would you like me to go ahead and ask the questions?
I can read off the questions. That's fine.
Okay. Go ahead. You start.
Okay. Question number 1. Does UKG have any plans to enhance special events?
Tara or Tim, who do you want to answer that one?
I can take this one.
Okay.
Each year, UKG has an annual conference, and this year, the feature topic is enhancement on special events. The event management features that will improve the event coordinator's efficiency in managing off-duty events. We won't find out until the conference what that entails, but I'm definitely excited for it.
That's great. I didn't even see that on the thing. That's kind of nice. Okay. Is there any more, Emily?
Yes, there are. What if you don't want to be specific about which rank can sign up for an event?
I can handle that one. I think what you're talking about is some events you just need personnel. You don't need 1 lieutenant and 3 officers like I gave in my example. There are several different ways to do this. One way is to make a fictitious rank and have all the ranks made equivalent to it. This will be hidden until deployment. An example would be, let's make the rank a commission. So when you deploy and you want any commissioned person, you just deploy, I want 4 commissioned people. That way, a lieutenant can sign up, a sergeant can sign up, an officer can sign up without having to spell out each and every rank.
Awesome. And the next question we have is, they said we struggle to get people to accept special events. Can this be automated to self-select a position?
Yeah, I did mention that earlier in the presentation, and that is a really good feature of the special deployment, is that there is a self-fill position or creation in there, so that when the opening occurs, all the officer or the employee has to do is select it, and they're automatically in there. That is really helpful in case it's a time crunch, or some departments have so many overtime opportunities, they can't fill them all anyhow. So they just allow everybody to pick because there is really no competition because everyone kind of gets as much overtime as they want. So having a self-filled one is a very helpful feature.
Great, thank you, Tim. And this next question is, what if we do not know exactly how many positions we need to fill until we get a list of candidates?
One tip is you can always over deploy an event and see how many people respond. So a lot of times people will, or departments will overfill or over deploy, because they might want 10, but they'll take 8. So they'll over deploy, they'll put 10, and they know that they might not fill 10. It's easier to delete the ones that they can't. However, that is a manual process, so that's something that I wouldn't do on a routine basis, but some departments do it. Easier than adding an additional one, so it is a little bit easier to delete than add new ones, and it looks more consistent when you over deploy and then delete the very few that you have.
Emily, I think we're running out of time here. I think we have time for one more. Do we have another? Oh,
the last
perfect.
question is, last question real quick. What does the notification look like on the person's calendar?
Yes, and I think I did show that. So if you can go back to the slides that had, it was under the ad hoc, and you can see that when I had the bike patrol, that's how it will look. It will look like in the dashboard or on the roster. And a couple things about the ad hoc or user-defined one is, remember, it's probably good practice not to clutter your organizational structure with what you think might be the number. So let's look at that high school football game that we were talking about. Yes, most high school football games might require maybe a supervisors and 2 officers, but what about homecoming? What about tournaments? So your team makes it to the state playoff. They might require more. So best practice is, if it's not something that you really are comfortable, it's going to be consistent, use the ad hoc method that we talked about instead of using the permanent units and positions.
Hey, thanks, Tim and Tara and Emily. That's great. This has been a wonderful presentation. Emily, why don't you want to wrap it up? Wrap things up?
Absolutely. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. If you have any more questions, please feel free to send an email over to contact@jksava.com. And we'll be announcing session 3 very soon. You'll see it on social media, and we'll send an email out to everybody as well. Don't forget about the exit survey, and I hope everybody has the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.